humbly sitting down in this moment with all of you guys, humbly then sitting down in the space that I'm in, which is far more profound than we ever give our spaces credit for. The magic of the space that you're in, is so you could be a hoarder surrounded by all your things rotting away. But that's the magic of the space that you're in. We don't give credit to that as being magical. We would perceive that as a problem, an illness. You got to fix yourself. You got to get this right because there's a balance. That's too extreme. It's not healthy. So you're going to live in the rot within yourself, judging yourself, persecuting yourself, people persecuting you. We don't perceive it as the magic of the space that you're in within yourself and around you. The magic of the space I'm in within myself and around me. How I experience the message is when you humbly sit down and you say, I'm going to do this thing, whatever this thing is, right? So we would define it as I turn my camera on, I'm making a point or an intention to make a connection with the outside world, go through the process of uploading and creating a thumbnail and make it edgy and get the hook right and whatever garbage this is all about. And inside of me, it's annoying. I just want to be a person. I just want to be a humble person in a humble world where we have humble exchanges. But it feels like I'm in a world of everyone's worlds, trying to find the middle or center of it and embrace the way that it is right now and just go with the flow, even if it grinds my gears. So sitting in a humble space, experiencing my humble room, it's almost like the first time I ever just got out of the chaos cloud of what sustains this reality, what sustains our emotions, what sustains us, what keeps us going, what keeps us believing in what we need to keep doing. I recently had a conversation about, the whole 2012 and the Mayan calendar was a huge, huge, huge event. And people were really coming to life at that time. There was the open spiritual churches where there wasn't any real denomination. It was just an opportunity for spiritual people to come and connect in a community. That was the first I'd ever heard of that. The crystal shops coming to life, Reiki becoming a thing. And people were coming out of the woodwork at that time. And they were curious about this Mayan calendar and the end of the world possibility, because that one's always out there. When is the end of the world? I do feel the end of the world somehow happened around that time, but we're just not caught up, or we're just not aware of what's changed. And so the world is rebuilding itself at our pace, but we still keep feeling like we're in the world that we're most familiar with. And every generation will be familiar with a type of reality. And so we're having to go through, all of us in our own worlds, in our own realities, trying to meet somewhere and to come to a consensus or agreement. And there's all different types of ways that, we believe that the world should be, or how it should be created, or whatever. New buzzwords, new movements, new reasons why we got to fix everything, but nobody's just humbly sitting. Not even I. That's why I'm humbly sitting, because I need to humbly sit. I need to just humbly sit on purpose, conscious choice. Not, I find myself humbly sitting, but I never really humbly sat. And I'm humbly sitting in the magic of this space of earth, in the magic of this space of this time, in the magic of this space of this home, in the magic of this space of uncertainty, what the future is about. We live based upon the past, then we understand the present, then we can try to make changes based upon our perception of the past, and we can make it a better future, but the future keeps circulating the past again and again and again, and we're just stuck in this hamster wheel. It needs to be chaotic in order for it to be new. You understand that that for you to perceive the unknown means for you to know nothing. You can't comprehend the unknown because you don't know it. It's unknown. So when you're sitting there trying to find the answers and you know nothing, you're actually existing in a place where things are being reborn. You don't need to know anything. In fact, it would be better to know nothing. You're going to have to learn how to just go with the flow. I'm watching my own behaviors. I'm watching myself. And I'm even watching, why am I inspired to make these videos? Because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just inspired to make a message where I just do a thing. And I don't know, I'm literally in the unknown right now. I don't know. So I'm still doing the thing based upon the things that I've always done. So I'm still based upon what's molded and shaped me in my familiarity. And I don't know how to become completely and utterly different. However, this is a step to something a little bit different, right? I'm going to be quiet again. And I'm just looking off because allowing a message to come to me, and then I'll tell you some stuff. In a way, I have to know what I want this time. And I say that I've been reflecting on this Metatron Enoch thing, and I'm willing to have a mind-blowing experience that totally alters my perception of the way I've understood things. I'm basically asked to define the parameters of what is the information I choose to receive. And so right now with all of you, I'm defining the parameters to understand I'm talking through, okay, to understand what it is that I actually seek. So in a way, the message that they're sharing is asking me to talk about a thing. And so I'm still in the unknown, okay? I'm just taking prompts, all right? So I've been surprisingly different. My perception of Archangel Metatron has changed, and I've been through quite a lot of doorways with Archangel Metatron, but never felt this one before. Almost like a bitterness towards him. I always respected him. I was actually afraid of him when I first met him, and I kept telling him, I don't know why, but every part of my body is terrified of you. But I'm not going to be terrified of you because I don't understand why I should be afraid of you. And I had to work through that one step at a time. I even had demonic dreams, and those are pretty scary. But everything is information. Like, you don't have to be afraid. Even if everything inside of you is terrified, you still have a choice to animate yourself based upon your fear. I'm convinced there's actually nothing to be afraid of. Even if you're having to face death in the most horrifying way, every part of your body is going to be seized up and screaming in every place, but your soul can still be at peace no matter what you're going through. That's choosing to be in alignment with the peace that you have access to no matter what. You always have access to it. You got to stop though. You got to take a break. You got to separate. So here's Metatron. Here's the scary dreams, weird doors opening, creepy faces now looking at me. You know, the familiarity of me standing in my own home, thinking that I'm going about a normal day, and then something weird happens. Then I wake up and realize it was a dream. Metatron, and it's almost like all the crows were evil. I literally felt all the crows were evil for a while, like a whole week, okay? I started to understand that Metatron was challenging me to actually take a look through the veil of what creates fear, to look through the veil and to see that you could say all things that make me scared are really just the beautiful side of Metatron. But I just have to look through the fear and keep looking through the fear and keep looking through the fear and keep looking through the fear. And then I will find him. And it's an extraordinary being. I will find an extraordinary being. That was an angel the entire time. But if all I do is see what's right in front of me, I'll never look through it to see what's beneath the surface. My entire existence has been about what is beneath the surface of what we think is there. That's why I don't trust my own mind, because my own mind is always going to perceive things at the surface of what it can understand. So that's why meditation, that's why you have to just humbly sit. That's why you got to allow the prompts to come in. That's why you got to have these weird conversations on record and then put it out on YouTube with a catchy thumbnail or something. That's why, okay? That's why everything, everything and nothing. My existence, a magical space. So Metatron, I'm telling them I haven't really gathered my intention, my parameters, but I was wanting to explore what was so disgruntling because I always had respect for Metatron. And once it was fear, then it was respect, then it was I adored him. Then he was always challenging me. And now, after I witnessed this, I literally witnessed the story of human history in the form of a man, in the form of a Enoch man, okay? This man named Enoch, this man, okay, carries a story of human history. And I witnessed the story of human history not because we can be archaeologists and dig into the ground and find things that prove that we existed, I don't know how many thousands of years ago. And that just proves that we existed like 10,000 years ago, okay? But how do we prove that we existed, 100,000 years ago? And what version of reality existed at that time versus what other version of reality and what other version of reality and what other version of reality and all that stuff that, well, it's just a creative it's just a creative fantasy. There were no other versions of reality. Enoch is all versions of reality, the ones that you can dig and touch in a material way and the ones that are in your heart, the ones that some part of you remembers. You can't unremember it. That's why I'm convinced there's so many people trying to predict apocalypses because they've already been there. They've already lived it. Even when you watch Hollywood movies, what another apocalypse story, what are we trying to rinse the rag of apocalypse stories? It's just something in our Enoch system. It's something within us that has the history, that remembers other timelines that you can't necessarily dig up, but you can dig them up inside yourself. Anyway, so stepping into the energy of this incomprehensible experience of time and human history, and then seeing Metatron as a form of God figure that created mankind, and then who is Jesus or who is God then, and all of these questions naturally that come because, well, I do that. I'm open-minded to being wrong about everything, and I'm open-minded to being right about everything, and I'm open-minded because everything is just simply information. And I don't have to grab hold and say it has to be this way and only this way, and everything else is BS. It's like, okay, that's your reality. This is my reality. This is my perception of reality. Let's work together to build something interesting. Right now, the foundations are just cracking, breaking, shattering, falling away. And where are we standing? In a world that's trying to uphold the past. 2012 happened, or 2013, or when precisely did the end of the world actually happen? We didn't even know it happened. Now we're trying to hold on to the way the world always was the best way. No, it's not. There is a better way. There is a new way. There is a new way to experience reality that we have no idea how it's all coming about, but it's happening through us, through every single one of us. Agree with those people, disagree with those people. It's all part of the chaos, the rebirth, the resurrection into a new reality. And that's the magic of the space that we're in. So, Metatron, I've been disgruntled because I actually saw that everything I struggle with in this life is some part of himself that he struggles with. Everything that's beautiful and everything that is ugly is Metatron. And that Metatron is a source of creation, let's just say. This is all just, let's just say, okay? Let's just say. Metatron is a source of creation. And I have been created from that source. I, Abbey, or my soul participated, but it's almost like I'm witnessing how we can't ever get out of this Metatron system. And I keep saying to him, you know, at what point within yourself, Metatron, at what point within yourself maybe do you become the hoarder that finds the magic of the way that you are, just the way that you are? Can we find peace in this? Can we find it? Could you find it? If you can't find it, Metatron, how will we ever find it? And this is just going to keep circulating, circulating, circulating until you change, till you do something different. That's the best my tiny human perception can have a conversation with a profound perception. Which another thing I've been thinking about is if I had a pen, I could just imagine a cube shape, okay? Now imagine you're inside this cube shape. You can only look at the walls, the ceiling, and the floor, right? You can't actually understand what's outside the box. You only when you go through life, you'll even say, when I was 15, I could not understand what I understood when I was 35, because you can't understand what's outside the box. You even have to grow through time to be able to expand your perception to understand what is outside the box, right? So I'm still in the box, telling Metatron, who's also in a box, exactly my perception of my own box, my perception of his box, and my perception of the way that's going to make the boxes better. It's all kind of ridiculous, but I still got to say what the best I can say. It'd be like my dog talking to me about my dog's perception, and I would appreciate that because it might just be better than my own. Metatron hearing from me might just be better than Metatron's own perception of Metatron's own self. Isn't that why we judge each other? My perception of the way you're living is much better than the way you're living. It's all judgment, right? It's all, I live in this box, you live in that box. I can see into your box. You can't really, you can see into my box better than I can see into my own box, my own reality. All right, so I had this conversation with Metatron, and now we're at the point, sorry it took so long to get there, but we're at the point where I'm going to let Metatron say something about this whole conversation. He asked me what guides me forward. Like, is it those, it just, I'm just going to start with, he's asking me what guides me forward. And I'm going to pause and I'm going to explore inside myself my answer to that. He says, is it what guides me, Metatron, forward, then guides you forward? Or do you guide yourself forward? And then he reminds me of conversations that I've had about the future is actually what comes first. And everything else is what built that point in time, as though we are the aftermath of what has already happened. And that the future actually guides us forward, but the future already happened. We're just the overspill of everything. And that's why we can choose a lifetime anywhere in time, because the time is already, all that time has already happened. All that is, was, and ever will be has already happened. So I just get to experience myself, and the magic of this experience is part of the domino effect that materialized the gift of this reality. And so he's asking me these questions about what guides me forward. And he says, is it what's out there that animates me to live my life? Whether that's the future already created or my idea of my dreams, or is it something that I'm building within myself, something that I'm doing internally? That all of this is about is not what is forward motion, but internal motion. Because I also had this conversation recently about YouTube. Because I've seen YouTube from way back in 2013. I've seen YouTube go through changes. I've seen myself go through life, and then my delivery on YouTube based upon what I've been going through. And then it just this YouTube has been this like strange thing, and there's no real. I mean, you could say there's definitely a manual to it and how to do it, but I've got to be authentic, and authentic doesn't really fit scripting, and I just I don't know how to change me on a level that I feel comfortable with. So the YouTube's been a big part of my thought processes. I find it important, but also there is value to what there is value to it, absolutely value to it. I'm just gonna stop there about it. But the end of the conversation or the end of my thought process was that it's not really about YouTube, it's about myself. And YouTube is just the container for me to look into the mirror and to go through these experiences so my soul can mold and shape itself. But it's not about me, it's about all of us, because here I am, just existing is impacting creation itself. And so the external reality is also affected just because I exist. And what am I doing with my existence? I'm convinced that I'm doing exactly what anyone would like predict I would do. I'm doing exactly my blueprint. I am playing out my blueprint perfectly. I'm convinced that I am so predictable that I can't really be anything more than the predictability of my energetic presence here in this reality and what my soul came here to experience like incomprehensible incomprehensibly. It's not so shallow as, well, I came here to be born and to go through these phases of life and then to aspire to, therefore I have because I did it. It's not, all of that is just an idea. But what's really happening with all these ideas is change from within. It's always happening. Growth is always happening. That transformation. So my mind and my human self, right? And my relationship with the meaning, what I do with my time, and I reflect on things, that's what it's all about. It's not what you got out of it. Like what you got. You got poverty, you got wealth, you got people to love you, you were rejected, you got loneliness, you got whatever it is you got out of this because you did it, or because your blueprint or your divine purpose or the magic of this moment or the reason why you exist or it was essential for your soul. That's the deeper explanation. So this conversation with Metatron is going to be exhausting, I think. He takes all this and just pushes it aside. And then I'm just sitting in kind of like a cellar, like fruit cellar, a cellar. You can store your goods in this cold, dark place. And then he takes all this trying to understand his, I guess, purpose and the creation of mankind, so to speak. He just takes all this and just sets that aside too. And then once he sets that aside, I'm just sort of sitting on the grass in a sunny day. This is even more complex than that because he shows me what moves you forward is part of what he's doing right now. So it's like he takes my human brain and he sets it aside and I become part of the light. And then he amplifies what is like this the heart of everything. You can reflect and you can deep dive and you can philosophize, philosophy. You can do that, or you can just sit in your heart in this magic of this space. And he says that was what I was really wanting to say this whole time was as simple as, and he shows me a YouTube fortune cookie short. All you have to do is just be in the magic of this space. The magic of this moment is the lightest part of you. And everything else will weigh you down and put you into darker places. And you'll try to understand the containers and you try to understand all of these things. But there's only really just the magic of this space. And then he puts himself in the magic of this space as though he is the magic of this space. And then he shows me and you, and all of us are the magic of this space. And he shows me whatever you can't stand about politics and the gas price is the magic of this space. He shows me whatever terrifies you. You are in the magic of this space. And he reminds me of the peace that I talked about. And how you can always be at peace even when you're afraid, because that always exists inside yourself. And then he shows me just mindlessly, so to speak, going for a mindless walk in the sun without a single thought. There's nothing really to do. There's just this time. That's it. And the magic of this space. And so that's the message. All right. Thank you guys so much. I hope you found this interesting. Maybe you understand, maybe you relate to it, maybe you do these things, these deep rabbit hole dives in your own translation of reality and stuff. Okay. Thank you for watching and have an awesome day. Bye for now.